Hello and welcome to Not Replaced Yet, the show where we help people upskill, reskill, and just plain get skills when it comes to the tidal wave of AI that we're all riding. My name is Jesse Bushcar. I'm normally joined by my brother Nick, but since this is a marketing specific tutorial, I'll be flying solo. Nick is the more technical of the two of us, and our skills overlap plenty, but I'm definitely the career marketer. I've spent countless hours down in the weeds of marketing strategy, behavioral psychology, and many interrelated frameworks. And to that end, we're going to pick up where we left off in last week's tutorial, where we began the process of building a set of personas and subsequent narratives that we call synthetic personas. They're synthetic because, well, they're not real. Today, we're going to put those personas into action. And this is where the value really starts to emerge, because strategy is great, but if it's not actionable, it's not valuable. So I'll give you a quick review, and then we're going to go survey our synthetic personas. We'll extract some real data, run some A/B tests, and start creating plenty of value. Enough talk. Let's jump into it. I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to start with a quick overview of what we built last time. If you haven't checked out this tutorial, we're using the tool make.com. This is a no-code and low-code application that connects multiple services or apps together to build automation workflows. Right here we have our first one that we created, the persona generator, and then we also have a narrative generator. And just to show you how this works really quickly, we use OpenAI, and you can open this up. And you can see there's prompts specific. I'm not going to go through all of this. Please review the previous tutorial, but there's a prompt that tells it what to do. And then that happens to deliver a JSON object. If you're not technical enough to have comfort with JSON objects, don't be afraid. They're very simple, and you'll look at them, but you won't have to mess with them too much. But we generate that here. We loop through it, iterate, and then we add to our persona sheet. And so when I pull up our Google Sheet here, this is what it added. It added three things: a male, a female, and a non-binary persona with different categories: age range, ethnicity, education, pizza, engagement, because we were making a fictional pizza restaurant. And then we built the second one, the second scenario. We actually load those from this sheet. We load them in. That's what this little module does in make.com. Passes those three personas into ChatGPT. There's another prompt that says, tell us, make a narrative about that with some specificity about reality and diversity and things like that. And then add that row. And so what we get in the output here is Dennis, Tiana, and Marisol, three narratives about our fictional personas. And so I'll read you quickly a little bit of Dennis. Dennis says he's been working maintenance at the local school district for the past 17 years. Before that, he bounced around a bit, did some roofing, landscaping, even worked a second shift at a factory, et cetera, right? So these narratives are adherent to the persona data that you have generated or brought in if you already have first-party persona data or knowledge about your customer personas, your ICPs, your design targets, whatever language you use in your field. Bring that in here, and you can generate those narratives from there. So that's the recap. We built that, and it's all well and good, but paragraphs about pretend people aren't really winning the day. But if we believe that these are representative of our customers because we have steered the creation of this, then what would we wish we could do? What do you wish you could do if you had the attention of these people? Because what AI unlocks is a range of ways to interact fictionally and synthetically, but potentially valuably with these quote unquote people. So let's pick it up here. And this is where the net new tutorial begins, because what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit to this system to where we're actually going to be able to survey multiple questions each of these people, right? And so let's pick up the same example where we had a fictional pizza restaurant, and we're going to add a sheet just called questions, okay? If you notice, we need all of this data to be in a structured format because we're passing it through these tools, and that structure is what allows us to do so. And so let's see, questions, we're going to have, question label and question text. We don't even need that. You could just do question, one line per question. In fact, let's just simplify that. We'll have one, okay? We won't even have two. Where's my delete column? So question text. And let's ask some people like, what's your favorite pizza topping because we're trying to learn about our persona's preferences. What's your favorite pizza topping? Let's see. How many times per month do you go out to dinner? How often are your restaurant choices? How would you say that? Let's be a little more casual. How often do you choose pizza when you eat out? And maybe one more. Rank these factors in order of importance to your dinner choice: price, convenience, novelty. Social activity. How about something like that? Cool. So now we have a 4-question survey and that just lives in a spreadsheet right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a new scenario. Let's see. I'm actually going to clone this narrative generator. If you'd like the narrative generator scenario, we've exported it and made it available in our previous tutorial, but I'm going to go in and clone this. This is a good way to start. If you already have something and you don't want to start from zero, clone this, and we're going to call this the question asker, a real formal name here. But notice how it's pretty obvious. We know when we navigate through make.com's system, we can find it, right? Okay, so I'm going to pull this out. We want to first, in our make.com scenario, we want to load our respondents, or I'm sorry, our narratives, okay? So this is going to, this search rows is how you load the data in because it's going to search through the rows. And we don't want to search the personas because remember, that's just these characteristics. We actually want to serve up, we want to load in the narratives, right? So I'm going to change this to load narratives. Now it's going to load all 3. We're not filtering yet. And if we were to change that and add 4, 5, and 6, this would still load them all. So that's nice. And I can hit save. And so this will get all of them. And then we're going to pass this into ChatGPT, but not yet. Because the ChatGPT module here, the OpenAI module, what it's going to serve as is loading in the persona, the narrative, and also loading in the question, processing that through our instructions, right? So we've loaded in the narrative, and one thing that's helpful, you can right-click on these, and let's see, is it in settings? No, it's not in settings. Kind of gets lost. Rename, there we go. This is loading our narratives is right here. Cool, so now we know that. And then we also want to load something else. And so I'm just going to duplicate this module or clone the module, put it in line, and we're going to not load our narratives. We're going to load our questions. Okay, now this, to the astute technical eye, is a nested for loop. What that means is that we're going to loop through each of these, and for each of these, we'll loop through each of these. So 3 personas. For each of those 3, we'll ask 4 questions. And so we'll pass that through and make 12 API calls, 1 for each question that we ask each persona. And so what we will end up with, and let's just switch this. Oh, that's what we have to do. Let me not get ahead of myself. We have to add an answers sheet here. We don't need, let's see, let's add a sheet. Let's call it answers. And let's see, we would like, let's put a date. Like what would we want our structure to be? We would want a date. We would want the synthetic persona name. We would want what the question was and what the answer is. That's pretty straightforward, right? So we're going to end up with, and then you could bring this into any of your, BI tools. You're using Looker Studio or any dashboarding, even just making charts here inside of Google Sheets. And by the way, let me say, Google Sheets is not by far the only place you can put this data. In fact, it may not It's not the very best overall. Like you can use an actual database. We use Supabase for our production grade stuff. You can use something in MySQL. You can use Airtable. But anyway, somewhere where structured data can live and be manipulated. So this is simple enough, right? We want to know when the synthetic persona question was asked. We want to know who was asked this, what the question was, and what the answer is. Just do singular. So now we have that. Let's jump back into make.com. And so we're going to add the answer. That's where add a row comes in. But instead of adding it to narratives, we will add it to answers. And so we have values that we don't want in here because it was cloned from the old one. So let's delete these. We're going to put date in here. Date, what I use is I use make.com's built-in, oh, not there, the little calendar icon, the built-in timestamp. And I like to, it's kind of tedious. If anyone from make.com is listening, like you could have 1 degree of improved date, like ease of use here. Like give me a link to what this format syntax is, what the tokens are in here. Like I always have to leave and figure it out. So anyway, we're just going to copy and paste this. So the way the formatting works is basically, oops, come on. This is what I mean. It's pretty tedious. I just want to copy this. It's not going to let me. All right. Well, format date. We're going to put now in there. So it's going to grab the time. And then we're going to come over here. Whoops. Come over here. And you got to put it in. Scroll over. And then YYYY hyphen MM hyphen DD. And then hour, minute, AM, PM. That's what we want. It is worth it to take the time to format your dates correctly. It's frustratingly tedious, but it's so easy to get tripped up if you accept, maybe there's input from, like, say you're pulling in Instagram data or something, and its dates are in a different format than the data that you're trying to kind of mesh it and merge it with. Just take the extra 5 minutes or so to really dial in your date formatting so that it's consistent, and it will save you a lot of headaches. So anyway, just a pro tip from someone who's custed his computer more than once on that subject. But cool. So date and then persona name, which is going to be one of our variables we can pull from the initial search. So these are all in order. We can go to the very initial one. One nice thing, you notice that when I hover over one of these green variables, the correct module that it's referencing kind of pulses. That's super nice visual to just kind of keep your bearings where you're at. Okay, cool. So let's see. This is loading in narrative. Oh, you know what? Is it loading narratives? Hold on. I feel like maybe I've gotten the wrong one. Loading narratives. Okay, it loads the narrative. You know what? We don't have a name for the narrative in a structured format. Yes, we do. Name, narrative. Okay, well, let's go back. We want to... Oh, you know what it is? It's because I haven't run this yet. That's what it is. Let me unlink these. This is something we covered in the last tutorial, but just remember, this is going to have special variables based on what you're referencing. I'm referencing the narratives sheet, but I cloned it from something that referenced the personas sheet. So it's going to have all of these headers as the variables that are available here until I run it, and then it will go see, oh, those aren't the variables. These headers are the variables that we'll use. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to run this. I disconnected this so that I didn't burn any OpenAI tokens, because these are, pennies, but pennies add up. And I didn't burn any make.com operations or bandwidth by running these, because I know that they're not correct. So let's just run it. Boom, we run it. It got those. And now the way you know that it works is when you go back in. Notice I connected these. I go back in to, actually, I was going to do that here because we're going to spend the remainder of the time dialing in that prompt in the OpenAI module. But you can see synthetic persona. Let's come down here to the first one, and instead of it being narratives, now I have name, and you can see one value here. An example value is Dennis. So we're good to go. So the question, I don't know the question just yet. The answer is going to be, generated from the next one. So let's come back up, both of these. So the answer is, the question is the question text from our second. Again, notice that the pulsing there to the left. And then the answer is what is generated from the narrative. So that is, oh, this is, we're gonna change this actually. Let me, because again, this will give us different variables. This was cloned from the last one too, same problem. So we'll just leave that blank for now, and we'll hit save. And now let's recap real quick because I know I'm moving fast. In this first module here, this Google Sheet, we load the narratives in. We pull in, these stories that we've generated. And then in the second module, we load in our questions because we need both of those. And those questions, remember, we just wrote those. And these, one kind of sidebar, you can have a separate make.com scenario or AI module generate these questions for you. So it's really interesting to kind of build loops and systems like this. But for now, we're going to just manually do it. And so we load those questions in. We're going to do some AI stuff, which we're going to come back to. But once we do that AI stuff, that's going to answer those questions. That's going to drop the answer into our new fourth spreadsheet here, which we've already defined our headers. So let's get into the AI stuff, the fun stuff. This is one of the modules. You can use Anthropic. You can use Gemini. You can use many different make.com integrations with various LLMs. ChatGPT is probably the most ubiquitous. It's the one I use more often than not. And so that's what we're using for this one. Make sure you get the model. You'll have to do some authentication. This is just adding that API key. You can find that in OpenAI's developer portal. If you don't have that, you'll need to start there because you're getting ahead of yourself. And if you use Anthropic, you're going to have a similar authentication process. So that's just something you'll have to navigate to get to this point. Selecting a chat method is called a chat completion. That is the language that is modern. They used to call it a prompt completion legacy. And I do find that they do a pretty good job of giving you some if you load this in and you don't know the difference between these, it's nice that they label it legacy because a lot of people are learning, right now. We all are to some degree. And so, we didn't all use the tools when those were the terms they used. So anyway, I've selected ChatGPT 4.0 latest. The latest means that as they have new updates, this will auto update to it. So you will continuously have the benefit of the improved intelligence and other aspects of the model releases. And then this is where we get kind of the creative freedom. We have two messages. The first one is a developer message. It used to be called a system message. They left that in there, which is nice. And that's where we give it the instruction of what's going to happen, what we need it to do. I'm going to leave this here. This was from our last one where we were generating JSON for our personas. And then what we do in the user message, so this is kind of, if you think of ChatGPT, this is behind the scenes, giving the message instruction, giving the chatbot instruction or the AI interaction, some context instruction. And then we actually pass the first message in from a user role, and that is what has the variables here. So this is going to be easier to reverse engineer. Let's start. We still have to come back and write better instructions, more specific instructions here. So let's say, we're going to give you a name, and then that name is going to be the name. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to say narrative, and we're going to say question. Remember, since we're looping through each question, this will happen 4 times, or 4 times for each persona, because we have 4 questions, 3 personas. And there we go. So what the AI will receive is the name, their story, and their question for them, right? Pretty straightforward. Okay, now what I'm going to do here, copy, and let's open ChatGPT again for fun. And I'm going to say, help me modify a prompt that I'm using in my AI application. I don't need this to create personas, personas or narratives, but I do need it to ask the synthetic persona based on the narrative provided a single question that will also be provided in the user message context. Help me modify a prompt that I'm using in my AI application. I don't need this to create persona or narratives, but I do need it to ask the specific persona based on the narrative provided a single question that will also be provided in the user message context. Other than this change in intention, please keep the other factors detailed in this prompt the same. Yeah, that's probably good. All right, so we'll do existing prompt. And I paste that in. That's what I copied from my old one. So you don't need to rewrite it, but you can. And I let, what do I have on here? I'm using, I guess I'm using O3. I didn't specify the model, and it's on a thinking model. That's fine. Okay, so here's a revised version of the prompt that replaces generate persona narrative step with the ask the synthetic persona one question, while preserving all of your original placeholders, constraints, and style notes. Inputs. No, I don't want the input. The input is just going to be the narrative. I don't need those, because these were all translated into the narrative. So the narrative is supposed to be a lossless representation. So we'll remove these, right? You could pass them through. If you want to be more prescriptive, you could pass them through. There's a lot of flexibility here. And then there were some constraints: do not use last names, keep the tone natural, no high fantasy. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's pretty good. Well, let's just read the first part. Based on the following demographic characteristics and provided first-person narrative, ask the synthetic persona a single question provided below. Output only a single object. All right, so we're going to modify this a little bit, okay, because we're using this, very specifically. So I copied that. This little expand button in make.com is really helpful. It gives you a little bit larger canvas. So I'm just going to clear this out. Deleted that, and I've pasted it in, okay? And then I'm going to just modify this based on, we're not going to add in the demographic characteristics, based on the provided first-person narrative, ask the synthetic persona a single question. Output only a single object in clean JSON format with one field, question. Inputs. And so I don't want to do these. We're just going to do name. Boom. And this like code looking stuff is just a way to kind of loosely identify variables. The AI should be smart enough to not need that. But so we have name, narrative, question, output format. It's telling it to output it in JSON. JSON is a more machine readable format, but actually I don't want to output the question. I want to output the answer. Yeah, I wasn't good enough in my ChatGPT prompt. So we want to output answer. And really that's it, because we have everything else. Name, narrative, question. So save, and let's just go back in, double check. This is where the measure twice, cut once comes in. So we've told it we want it to ask a question. Oh, I do want to have this. Keep answers to two sentences or less, because otherwise you get some kind of long narratives. And then we're not going to do much customization there, not that we need to. And then we do have to just clean this up, because the answer will be the result. This might not work because this is still because we haven't run this prompt yet. It's still using these old narratives or these old variables from my cloned example, but let's try it out. Okay, let's give it a try. So we run it, it goes and gets the narratives, it goes and loads our question, and it's working. It's getting all the way through. That's how you can see that you don't have any errors all the way through as you're getting these numbers trickle all the way down. These are all operations. If you're using make.com, it's priced on number of operations and an amount of bandwidth, amongst other things. And this should end, if my math is correct, at 12. And it did. 12 sheets added, 12 rows added based on 12 API calls using the prompts that we wrote, which were 4 questions times 3 personas each. And let's take a look. And look at this. We have our filled in sheets, and that's 13 minus 1 header equals 12. So it's really nice. I know it seems maybe tedious or nerdy to like count it like that, and I'm over articulating it, but it's really nice to know like I intended this much to happen. It exactly happened. So let's see. Dennis, what's your favorite pizza topping? You can see is what it says in here. And Dennis says, gotta go with sausage. Something about a good spicy sausage on a thin crust. It just hits the spot, especially with a cold beer. There you go, Dennis. Tiana says, definitely pepperoni. It's a classic for a reason, but if I'm feeling fancy, I'll throw on some roasted garlic or mushrooms too. And Marisol says, green chili, hands down. It gives the pizza a little bit of New Mexico kick just the way I like it. Okay, so at this point, we have built an engine that can survey these personas. These certainly are fictional. I mean, we generated them kind of sight unseen. But if you know your personas, if you know your customers, you can easily input that data on the front end so that your questions become more interesting, or the answers to your questions become more interesting. Let's ask some further conversations. So the way this is set up, I'm just going to delete these questions and we'll use the, let's see. Here's something that I think is really interesting about this. You can ask people questions that you would never ask them in a real survey because you would worry you would alienate the yourself from them, that you would turn them off, that it would be out of bounds, whatever. So like who did you vote for in the last presidential election? You know, maybe not super relevant, but you might actually be interested. You might not want to ask, right? What is a tactic that what is a sales or business tactic that would turn you off to future patronage? I don't know. That's a weird way to say it, but you know, the AI will get it. Let's see. What's another question? What kind of ad would appeal to you? You know, you can ask very direct questions because you're not at risk of turning anyone off. Okay, cool. So all we had to do is change the questions and just run this scenario again because it'll load the same narratives. It will load the new questions because it's just pulling from that data source, and it will pass them through and go. So we should have 9 operations here. Let's see. I can snap my fingers and jump ahead. And here we are at 9. Yeah. And so let's see what the answers to those questions are. Jump back to your answers. And we have some more. We start down here at Dennis, and it says, who did you vote for? I don't usually talk politics much, not at Marco's, not at work. But let's just say I lean toward whoever I think is going to look out for the working guy. Okay. Ooh, Tiana jumped right in. Tiana says, I voted for Biden. I wasn't super thrilled about the options, but I felt like he aligned more around my values. And Marisol says she voted for Biden. Actually, Marisol is our non-binary persona, so not sure her parent or their pronouns, but we could ask him. Felt like he was the steadier hand we needed at the time. This is leaving out some current events of health knowledge, but that's not this show. So yeah, I mean, I think one of the values here is that asking questions of these synthetic personas that you couldn't, or shouldn't ask your regular personas, your actual survey partners. you wouldn't directly ask them. So, okay, so as a part 3 here, I want to make one more change, and this is going to require a change in our prompt. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to take this prompt, I'm going to put it back in ChatGPT, and I'm going to say, here's where I ended up. Please modify this so that it's not a survey question, but an A/B test structure. We'll pass in, let's pass in a KPI, and 2 test variables. Then the prompt should take into account the narrative and predict a likely variable winner from the 2. Okay, stick with me on this. If you're not tracking, you'll catch up soon. We're pasting in the full prompt. It should modify it. This is just text-based simulation. And so, yes, you can survey, you can ask a question, but you can also ask the AI to make an assessment on behalf of that synthetic persona. And that assessment can be any action that we want, right? So this is the new prompt, without modification at least, based on the provided first-person narrative, predict which of the 2 test variables is more likely to achieve the specified KPI. Output only a single object in clean JSON format. Narrative, name narrative KPI, variable A, variable B. Wonderful. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to the questions, and we're going to say KPI is click-through rate. Variable 1 is, let's see, for the pizza restaurant, let's see, this is, variable 1 is $5 coupon in copy. And variable 2 is, let's see, new pizza first time release. Okay, so we're comparing a dollar amount with a new menu item, a new, let's be new pizza seasonal LTO limited time offer. Okay, so we're playing on a scarcity. I call them core drives because I use the Octalysis framework. That's for another video, but we're playing on scarcity there versus value, and we're just going to ask one, right? So we've defined 3 variables in here. The copy doesn't really matter, like colons and commas and stuff. The AI is going to be smart enough to pick that up. If you're doing this in production, you would want to be pretty scrutinous about that, and you could build this out to not just be in one question. You could have KPI, variable 1, variable 2, really any of this. Any of your own test strategy and variables can be built out like this. So we've got this. We're just going to ask one. We've got our 3 personas. Let's paste this back in. Copy into here. Paste it back in. Save. I'm going to save this again, and I'm just going to clear out our answers. We don't need these answers. We can always generate them again. Boom, boom. And we should have 3 now. Let's run it. It's going to load our narratives. It's going to ask that one question per 3. And let's see what we got. Oh, winner B. Variable B is the LTO. All right. Now here's the thing. That's not super helpful, right? Like, A, can we trust it? Like, we'll talk about that in a minute. Can we trust it? But B, why? Why is it? And so we don't want to just know that. We want to say this. Winner, label A or B of the predicted perform better on the KPI, along with a 1-sentence explanation for why that was chosen. Save. Save. And We'll delete these again. Actually, let's leave them. We could compare them if we want. 1, 2, and 3. And here we are. Winner B. Dennis seems less motivated by small discounts and more interested in trying new things during routine evenings like pizza with his buddies. So a new seasonal pizza would likely catch his eye more than a $5 coupon. Tiana's deep love for pizza and curiosity for new experiences suggests he's more likely to click on a seasonal limited time pizza than a generic $5 coupon. And Marisol seems more drawn to meaningful experiences and storytelling. All right, now let's do this. What if we know something about Dennis? And then I'm going to bring this to a close. It's just my wheels get turning when I'm building these. What if we know something about Dennis? Let's say, whoops, back out. Let's say we know that Dennis is... Why is this not allowing me to edit? Okay. At the end of the day, I'm very financially motivated, and a little discount goes a very long way with me. Exclamation point. Okay. So let's say what we know about Dennis, the Dennises that are represented here, is that they actually are very financially motivated. We want to add that context in here. What we know and what we believe to be true is how these will react. And so let's run this again and because, it's just pulling from that data, it will now be represented in the data, and we'll come back here to answers, and let's go over here. And here we look at this, winner A. Okay, Dennis is very financially motivated and values discounts. So a $5 coupon is more likely to grab his attention. And we have consistent Tiana and Marisol variables. Now, if you were to actually build this out in production, you would want to have more instances of these. I like to build out many instances of the personas. So start with your very tight characteristics of who you believe your persona is representative of, build those into many narratives, and then you can have much larger sample sizes of these surveys, because not 100% of all of this persona will answer that, right? And what you're trying to use is this new data layer, this LLM, and extracting what its belief of percentages and weighting for these audiences would be, because its whole job is trying to simulate reality realistically. So that's where I'm going to close today. You can survey, you can run simple A/B tests. And when we come back with the next part of this tutorial, we're going to show how we can actually incorporate visuals. That's right, creative visuals into these tests. So it's not just text. We can actually do some creative testing. That's all we have for now. If you've enjoyed this, please give us a like. If you don't want to miss the next episodes, please give us a subscription. Please subscribe. And if you have any questions or if we got anything wrong, please leave a comment. That's how we learn. That's how we interact. And lastly, do share this with someone, anyone, everyone, to show that you're investing your time in AI fluency and that they should too. So thanks again. I'm Jesse for my brother Nick. We'll see you next time on Not Replaced Yet.